What's up guys, today I'm back with another video. Even though there was no MMA news right now, it feels like we're in a bit of a drought, but with that being said, I figured it's the perfect time to drop some bold predictions for 2025. Hopefully these age like fine wine and not milk, you know what I mean? Anyways, let's cut to the chase and let's get into it. So, my first prediction for the new year is about the welterweight division and specifically Belal Muhammad. I'm calling it right now. Belal isn't taking an L in 2025. For the longest time, people, myself included, doubted this guy. We thought Sean Brady was going to beat him, didn't happen. Then we said Gilbert Burns was going to be that guy, same result. And when it comes to Leon Edwards, people were sure that Belal would lose. But guess what? He decisioned him too. It's like he's beating not just his opponents, but also the entire fan base into decision. I know, Belal isn't the flashiest guy out there, and some people find him cringy, but the truth is, he's just that good. After watching Shavkat Rakhmonov and Ian Gary face off recently, I can confidently say neither of them would beat Belal on that night. Both are talented, sure, but Belal is on another level right now. When you look at the top 10 in the welterweight division, it's hard to pick anyone who can beat him right now. Honestly, the only guy I think that really has a real shot is Jeff Neal, mainly because of his insane takedown defense. You see, in their first fight, Jeff dominated Belal, effectively neutralizing his game. Outside of Neal though, I think Belal has the tools to outpoint and win decisions against everyone in the top 10. And look, I'll admit it, Belal's starting to grow on me. He's not the guy who gets me hyped for a matchup, but I've got to respect what he's bringing to the table. His cardio is in the next level, his wrestling is incredible, and he's always in control whether the fight is on the feet or on the ground. On top of that, his fight IQ is off the charts. He knows how to adapt mid-fight and exploit weaknesses, even though he's not a knockout artist. His volume striking and his relentless pressure wears opponents down. And let's not forget his mental toughness. He's never folding under pressure. By the end of 2025, I think people will be putting Belal Muhammad in the conversation as the second best welterweight of all time. Honestly, he might even surpass Kamaru Usman in that spot. The biggest knock on Usman is that he fought the same guys repeatedly. Masvidal, Covington, Gilbert Burns, and when he finally faced the Leon Edwards, he lost. Meanwhile, Belal is taking on all comers and getting it done. So yeah, I just don't see Belal taking a loss next year. And with that being said, another bold prediction I've got is about Alex Pereira. I think he's gonna beat Magomed Ankalaev. Call it plot armor or destiny, but I feel like everything is lining up for him. After that, I generally believe he's going to go for that third belt, whether it's against John Jones or Tom Aspinall in heavyweight. It just feels like 2025 is the year for him to make that move. Now, whether he actually wins that third belt, that's a whole other story, you know what I mean? Here's the thing. I can see Alex getting past Ankalaev because I don't think Ankalaev will lean on his grappling enough. If he stands and strikes, Alex has the power and precision to finish him. But when it comes to moving up and facing someone like a Jones or an Aspinall at heavyweight, that's a completely different challenge. Both of those guys are more well-rounded and honestly have their own main character energy. The first thing I'd expect either of them is to shoot for a takedown. Get Alex on the ground and just dominate him. Picture John Jones or Tom Aspinall turning Alex into a Swiss cheese on the mat. It wouldn't even be close. If that fight happens, it's gonna hurt Alex's stock a little, but let's be real, he'll still be a massive draw. The guy is already a 2-divisional champion, which is a huge accomplishment on its own. But I just don't see him being the first guy to capture all 3 belts in 3 different weight classes. Now, don't get me wrong, it would be absolutely insane if he pulled it off, but I don't think Alex is that guy. At the end of the day, I think Alex's plot armor runs out against someone like John Jones or Aspinall, but beating Ankalaev feels totally doable if you ask me. Even if he falls short to get that third belt, his legacy is already solidified and he'll be a fan favorite. Now, another prediction for 2025, one that I don't think is actually too bold, is that Payton Talbott will break into the top 10, maybe even the top 5 of the bantamweight division. Now, I know he wasn't as active in 2024 as we all wanted him to be. His last fight was a knockout in just 19 seconds against Giannis, and everyone thought he'll be using that momentum to stay busy. For some reason though, he didn't. He only fought twice that year, and honestly, I wish either the UFC had pushed him harder or he should have had capitalized on the momentum himself. But 2025 feels like it's gonna be his year. He's already set to fight Ronnie Barcelo next, who's a solid bantamweight, but not someone I see giving Talbot much trouble. I think Payton runs through him, and after that, I see him getting a ranked opponent from there. and I believe he's gonna get the Sean O'Malley treatment. You know, he's gonna get fast tracked through the division. Maybe he faces someone like a Mario Batista and then a big name like Chito Vera to really push him into contention. The thing is, people forget why Tabin is so dangerous. His striking is ridiculously clean, fast, and super effective. He's got that sharp jab and controls the pace, and when he lands those hooks or overhands, it's lights out. Plus, he's not a one-dimensional striker. He can also mix it up with beautiful kicks, elbows, and knees, keeping his opponents guessing the entire fight. His leg kicks are brutal, breaking down movement, and opens up more opportunities for his power shot. What really sets him apart through is his timing and his distance control. He knows exactly when to attack and when to reset. His footwork and head movement make him hard to hit, and he's always in position to land something big. Whether he's pressuring forward or waiting to counter Talbott's striking, it's all about precision and power. And that's why I think he's going to make a serious wave early next year. Another prediction I have for 2025 is that Alexandre Pantoja will dominate the flyweight division once again. Honestly, I don't see anyone in the division stopping him. I think he folds both Manel Cap and Carcara France without much trouble. By the end of the year, I believe a lot of fans will start putting Pantoja on the flyweight GOAT list. On top of that, I see him cracking the top 5 pound for pound rankings. But here's where it gets more interesting. I think 2025 is the year Pantoja finally makes the move up to 135 to chase another title. Do I think he'll win the bantamweight title? No, not really. He's a beast, but I think guys like Merab Dvalishvili or Umar Nurmagomedov would still get the better of him. He'll definitely cause some problems for either of them, but in the end, I see him taking a loss at 135. That said, I don't think a loss at bantamweight will hurt his legacy. He'll head back down to 125 and continue to dominate the flyweight division like nobody else. I just feel like 2025 is going to be a massive year for Pantoja between defending his belts, solidifying his GOAT status as the greatest flyweight of all time, and testing the waters at bantamweight. This guy is set to make waves all year long. Alright, another bold prediction. I think Ilia Topuria is going to make the jump to 155 late next year, and honestly, I think he's going to take his first L there. Now, don't get me wrong, the guy's a beast, but lightweight is a whole different ballgame. He's already talking about wanting to fight Charles Oliveira, and I'm just like, dude, if Charles gets a hold of you, it might be a wrap. Oliveira's size and frame are no joke, and if you add in his grappling, it's a nightmare. Same thing with Islam. Good luck dealing with those guys, I'll tell you that. That said, I think Topuria absolutely finishes some of these strikers in the division like Dustin Poirier and a Justin Gaethje, and hell, he'll even knock out Max Holloway again. I think they're tailor-made for him. Topuria's power and precision in the pocket are insane, and his boxing is just in another level. Neither Dustin nor Justin is known for the grappling defense, and if Topuria catches them slipping, I can easily see him landing a fight-ending combo or even taking them down and submitting them. His ability to mix it up and fight smart gives him a real edge against these guys who rely more on their striking. But again, when I think he runs through those guys like Dustin and Justin, the grapplers are a whole different issue. We've seen Bryce Mitchell take him down and control him, and that's not a great sign when you're moving up and facing killers like Gamrot, Beneil, Arman, or obviously Islam. The size and frame matters, especially when the grapplers are skilled as you, if not better, and they bring a whole new level of physicality. Lightweight is stacked with savages, and while Topuria could make a big splash, I think he's going to hit a wall against the elite grapplers. He's a future star for sure, but he'll have to tighten up his grappling defense even more and adjust to the size difference if he wants to dominate at 155. Another bold prediction for next year is Carlos Prates. I think the Carlos Prates hype train is going to hit a small bump. Now, don't get me wrong, I still believe he's the future of the welterweight division, but I also think he's going to take an L in 2025. It's not a knock on his potential, but I feel like the hype is getting a bit out of control. Everyone's glazing this guy right now, and while I get it, he fought 4 times last year, all finishes, and had an amazing performance against guys like Lee and Neil Magny. It's time to pump the brakes a little bit. Here's the thing. We haven't seen him against top tier grapplers or strikers in the division yet. Sure, he's looked fantastic, but he hasn't really been tested in deep waters where champions are really made of. We don't know how he'll handle guys who can out-grapple him or strike at his levels, so there are still some big question marks. And look, I'm not sure who the UFC will match him up against next, but I've got this gut feeling that his next fight could be the one where he slips up. And when that happens, you know how fans are. Some jump off the bandwagon and start calling him overhyped. Personally, I don't think a loss will derail him completely. He's too talented and driven to let one setback stop his rise. But I do think his momentum will slow down for a bit before he picks it up, back up, and continues to climb. And look, man, by the end of 2025, I still see Prates as a serious contender, but I think this year will be a reality check that helps him grow even stronger. Sometimes a setback can be exactly what a fighter needs to level up, and I believe that will be the case with Carlos Prates. Here's another prediction though. Honestly, it's not even a bold one now that I think about it. I fully believe Conor McGregor will not fight in 2025 or even in 2026. At this point, I'm 100% convinced we'll never see him in the octagon again. A lot of us thought he'll be fighting this year, especially with all the talks about Michael Chandler and and all that matchup, but it didn't happen. Instead, we got rumors, controversies, and a bunch of distractions outside of the cage. Now it looks like Conor's more focused on chasing that big money fight, like this wild talk of like a boxing match against Jake Paul in Turkey. Honestly, if that happens, he'll probably go and make like an insane amount of money, and I can't blame him for taking it. After that, I think he'll cash out and ride off into the sunset. Let's be real, McGregor's time away from the sport, combined with everything that's going on in his personal life, just makes it harder to see him ever seriously competing again. As much as fans would love to see McGregor come back, it's probably for the best if he doesn't. He's taking too much time off, and the sport has evolved without him. Do you really want to see him come back and risk getting knocked out by these guys who are sharper, faster, and more active? Honestly, I don't. I already feel bad for him. Not because of his decisions or career's move, but because it feels like there's a darkness surrounding him these days. It's hard not to feel a little sympathy for someone who's clearly struggling outside of the cage. So, sorry Michael Chandler, you can keep calling him out if you want, but that fight isn't ever happening. It's time to accept that McGregor's UFC days are over. Whether or not he finds redemption outside of the sport, that's a story only time will tell. But as far as fighting in the octagon goes, I think that book is closed. Alright, call me crazy, but here's a bold one. I generally believe that Dan Hooker might get a title shot by the end of 2025, or at the very least, early 2026. Now, hear me out. It feels like the universe has chosen Dan for this wild redemption arc. The guy is coming back rocking crazy tattoos, dyeing hair, and a whole new vibe. It's like he transformed into a mythical fighter, and he's been looking sharp despite being on the wrong side of 35. I really think he's gonna end up fighting Justin Gaethje, and here's the crazier part. I think Dan Hooker takes him out. Picture this, a brutal war where Hooker somehow comes out on top, building insane momentum and earning himself a title shot. From there, I see him likely facing Islam Makhachev again. Now, realistically, I think he loses again. By then, Islam might have moved up to welterweight. If that's the case, Hooker could face someone like Arman Tsarukyan or Charles Oliveira instead. Now, obviously, that's where his storyline hits a wall. He's fighting a guy with their own main character plot armor. And let's face it, Dan isn't strong enough to get past those guys. But the fact that he can make it back to get a title shot at all is what makes this so wild. It's the ultimate comeback story. Win or lose, you've got to respect Hooker's ability to stay relevant and dangerous in such a stacked division. If this happened, it will go down as one of the craziest redemption arcs in the UFC history. Alright, call me crazy, but this isn't just a bold prediction, it's a scorching hot take. I generally believe Dricus du Plessis will beat Sean Strickland and Khamzat Chimaev in the same year. Yeah, you heard that right. And here's the kicker. I think he flukes his way to another victory over Khamzat. I know that's going to turn a lot of heads, but hear me out. I'm not entirely convinced Khamzat beats Dricus 100% of the time. Here's how I see it playing out. Dricus somehow survives the first 2 rounds against Khamzat, and he weathers the storm like he always does. Then he drags the fight into deep waters, and this is where his insane willpower and grit starts to take over. At that point, I think Dricus forces his way into the fight, breaking Khamzat's momentum, and grinds out a win. It might look chaotic, maybe even a bit lucky, but he gets it done. If this happens, and Dricus also beats Sean Strickland in the same year, people are definitely going to start talking about him as one of the greatest middleweights ever. Think about it. He already taken out Robert Whittaker and been in the mix with some guys like Izzy and Strickland. Throw Khamzat's name on that list, and it's pretty hard to argue that he doesn't belong at the very top. Alright, here's my last bold prediction. Dominick Reyes is going to be back in the top 5 by the end of the next year. Hear me out. I think the UFC is going to give him favorable stylistic matchups, and I wouldn't be surprised if they set him up with Alexander Rakic. And let's be real, Rakic is on a 3-fight losing streak, and honestly, I have no idea how he's still ranked number 5. It blows my mind. If Reyes and Rakic get matched, I generally believe Reyes not only wins, but puts himself in the conversation for title contention. Yes, what I'm saying is that Reyes is making a comeback, and this is going to be one of those redemption stories to watch in 2025. But that's pretty much my list. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree with my predictions, or do you see things going a different way? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'd love to hear your opinions. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on my next one.